Astaire and Rogers, and we thought we were the best comedy team since Laurel and Hardy.
The early 1960s, when the Dick Van Dyke Show burst onto America's living rooms like a comedic firework. Dick Van Dyke, with his lanky charm and pratfall genius, played Rob Petrie, a TV comedy writer with a knack for tripping over ottomans. Mary Tyler Moore, a radiant 24-year-old, was Laura, his effervescent wife, whose capri pants and quick wit made her a style icon overnight. Their chemistry was pure magic. Whether they were dancing in their New Rochelle living room or trading quips over dinner, you couldn't look away. Fans ate it up, but behind the scenes, whispers swirled. Was their bond just too perfect to be purely professional? Creator Carl Reiner once said, "The chemistry between them was serendipity." But what did that mean off camera? Were they just friends? Or was there a spark that Hollywood kept under wraps? The show ran from 1961 to 1966, racking up Emmys and cementing their status as TV royalty. But the real story of Dick and Mary was only just beginning. Let's rewind to Dick Van Dyke's roots, where the seeds of his stardom were sown in the unlikeliest of places. Born Richard Wayne Van Dyke on December 13, 1925, in West Plains, Missouri, he grew up in Danville, Illinois, with his younger brother Jerry, who'd later join him on screen. Their Dutch surname traced back to Mayflower passenger John Alden, giving Dick a slice of American history in his DNA. His mom Hazel was a stenographer, and his dad, Lauren Cookie Van Dyke, sold goods, but young Dick had his eyes on the stage. In high school, he shone in choir and drama, briefly flirting with a career as a minister before the theater's siren call won out. By 1944, with World War II raging, he dropped out of high school to join the Army Air Forces, scraping by as an underweight pilot trainee before becoming a radio announcer and troupe entertainer. He didn't get his diploma until 2004. Talk about a late bloomer. Post-war, Dick dove into showbiz, teaming up with Phil Erickson as Eric and Van, the Merry Mutes, a mime and lip-sync act that lit up nightclubs. Their local TV show in Atlanta was a stepping stone, but Dick's big break came at WDSU TV in New Orleans, followed by national TV gigs in the 1950s. An old Army buddy at CBS scored him a 7-year deal, and soon he was co-hosting the CBS Morning Show with Walter Cronkite. Broadway beckoned next, with a Tony-winning turn in Bye Bye Birdie, despite lukewarm reviews. By 1961, Dick was poised for greatness, landing the role of Rob Petrie and meeting the woman who'd change his life forever. Meanwhile, across the country, Mary Tyler Moore was carving her own path to stardom. Born in Brooklyn, New York in 1936, she grew up in a Catholic Irish-American family with 2 younger siblings, John and Elizabeth. Her dad was a clerk, and the family bounced around Brooklyn and Queens before moving to Los Angeles when Mary was 8, thanks to her uncle's showbiz connections. Catholic schools shaped her early years, but tragedy loomed. Her sister Elizabeth died young from a mix of painkillers and alcohol, and her brother John succumbed to kidney cancer at 47. Mary's first brush with fame came in the 1950s as a dancing elf in Hot Point appliance ads, filming 39 commercials in 5 days for a cool $6,000, until pregnancy ended her elf days when her costume couldn't hide her bump. Minor TV roles followed, including a sultry voice and legs-only stint as Sam on Richard Diamond, Private Detective, which got tongues wagging. But it was 1961 that changed everything. Cast as Laura Petrie at 24, Mary brought a fresh, vibrant energy to the Dick Van Dyke Show. Her capri pants sparked a fashion craze, and her Emmy-winning performance made her a household name. But what was it like working so closely with Dick? Did their late-night rehearsals ever blur the line between friendship and something more? Behind the scenes, Dick and Mary's bond was the talk of the town. They laughed, danced, and clicked in a way that felt almost too real. Dick once called their chemistry a happy accident, but fans weren't so sure. On set, they were inseparable, sharing inside jokes and perfecting their iconic scenes. Off set, they maintained a close friendship, but both were tight-lipped about anything deeper. Mary, married to Grant Tinker during the show's run, and Dick, wed to Margie Willett, kept their personal lives private, but that didn't stop the rumor mill. Tabloids buzzed with speculation. Were those lingering glances during rehearsals just acting, or was there a spark? Carl Reiner fueled the fire, saying, "They were so good together, you'd swear they were married in real life." Yet both stars deflected, focusing on their work and families. As the show ended in 1966, their paths diverged, but their connection endured, with occasional reunions that sent fans into a frenzy. What kept them so close, and why did they guard their story so fiercely? Dick's career soared post-Dick Van Dyke Show, but it wasn't all smooth sailing. In 1964, he charmed the world as Bert in Mary Poppins, despite his much-mocked Cockney accent. The film was a smash, and he followed it with Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in 1968. But box office flops and personal struggles tested him. A heavy drinker for years, Dick hit rock bottom in 1972, checking into a hospital for 3 weeks to beat alcoholism, a battle he won, staying sober ever since. Smoking was another demon. He chewed Nicorette gum for over a decade to quit. Health scares piled on, including a mysterious pounding in his head from 2006 to 2013, possibly linked to titanium dental implants, which left him exhausted and cancelling gigs. Yet Dick's spirit never dimmed. He starred in Diagnosis Murder from 1993 to 2001 with his son Barry, dabbled in computer animation, and formed an a cappella group, The Fantastics. At 97, he stunned as the gnome on The Masked Singer in 2023, earning a standing ovation as the show's oldest contestant. In 2024, he produced and starred in Coldplay's All My Love video with his wife Arlene Silver, proving age is just a number. But his personal life had its own drama. Wait until you hear about his fiery freeway escape. Mary, meanwhile, redefined TV with The Mary Tyler Moore Show from 1970 to 1977. Playing Mary Richards, a single career woman in a Minneapolis newsroom, she broke ground for women on screen, winning 29 Emmys and inspiring generations. Her personal life, though, was a roller coaster. At 18, she married Richard Meeker, a cranberry juice salesman, and had her son, Richie, in 1956. They divorced in 1962, and that same year, she wed Grant Tinker, founding MTM Enterprises. Their marriage crumbled by 1981 after a brief separation in 1973. Tragedy struck in 1980 when Richie died at 24 in a shotgun accident, just weeks after Mary starred as a grieving mother in Ordinary People. Earning an Oscar nod, she found love again in 1983 with Dr. Robert Levine, staying married until her death. Mary battled alcoholism, checking into Betty Ford in 1984, and quit smoking 3 packs a day. Diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 1969, she became an advocate, earning the JDRF's Heroes Award. By 2014, heart, kidney, and vision issues plagued her, and in 2017, pneumonia led to her death at 80. Her legacy as a pioneer endures, but her bond with Dick remained a fan fixation. Dick's personal life was a saga of its own. Married to Margie Willett in 1948, on a radio show, Bride and Groom, they had 4 kids: Christian, Barry, Stacy, and Carrie Beth. Their marriage ended in 1984, strained by Dick's 1976 affair with Michelle Triola Marvin, who he lived with until her 2009 death. In 2012, at 86, he married 46-year-old Arlene Silver, a makeup artist he met at the SAG Awards. Their age gap raised eyebrows, but their love was undeniable. Tragedy hit when his granddaughter Jessica died of Ray's syndrome in 1987, spurring Dick to advocate against aspirin for kids. He survived 2 Malibu wildfires in 2024 and a 2013 freeway car fire, pulled to safety by a passerby. Politically, he backed Bernie Sanders in 2016 and 2020 and Kamala Harris in 2024, showing his progressive streak. His faith kept him grounded. He taught Sunday school and read theologians like Martin Buber. Mary's political views were a curious mix. In 1972, she backed Richard Nixon, but by 1980, she supported Jimmy Carter. Later, she leaned conservative, enjoying Fox News and pundits like Bill O'Reilly, yet called herself a libertarian centrist in 2009. She championed women's rights, but valued child-rearing, politely declining Gloria Steinem's feminist push in the 1970s. Her Broadway stints, from the ill-fated Holly Golightly to Whose Life Is It Anyway, showed her versatility, while films like Thoroughly Modern Millie and Stolen Babies, earning a 1993 Emmy, kept her in the spotlight. Her MTM Enterprises produced hits like Noises Off, cementing her as a powerhouse. Their connection never faded. Reunions, like Mary's guest spots on Dick's shows, or their shared Mary Poppins Returns moment in 2018, sent fans into nostalgic overdrive. Dick once said, "Mary was my partner in crime on screen, and that magic never left us." Their legacy, his boundless energy at 99, her trailblazing spirit lives on in every rerun and fan's heart. From setting fashion trends to breaking TV barriers, Dick and Mary were more than stars. They were cultural forces. So, what's the truth behind their bond? Maybe it's the mystery that keeps us watching. Now let's zoom back to the Dick Van Dyke Show days, where Dick and Mary weren't just co-stars. They were the heartbeat of 1960s TV. From 1961 to 1966, their portrayal of Rob and Laura Petrie had America in a chokehold. Picture Dick tripping over that ottoman in the opening credits, only to be met with Mary's sparkling laugh and a quick-witted comeback. Their on-screen marriage felt so real that fans couldn't help but wonder, was there a little too much sizzle in those rehearsals? One episode, It May Look Like a Walnut, had them bantering over an alien invasion prank, and the chemistry was electric, Dick's goofy charm bouncing off Mary's sly grin. Behind the scenes, they'd spend hours perfecting their dance routines, with Mary's ballet background giving her an edge, and Dick's slapstick flair stealing the show. A crew member once dished, "They'd crack each other up so much we'd have to reshoot scenes." But was it all just professional magic? Or did those late-night script readings ever turn flirty? The tabloids sure thought so, splashing headlines like, "Dick and Mary, TV's secret sweethearts." And neither ever confirmed a romance, but their silence only fanned the flames. The show wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural earthquake. Mary's capri pants became a symbol of modern womanhood, with department stores scrambling to stock them. Fans flooded CBS with letters, begging for more Rob and Laura adventures. Dick, then in his mid-30s, and Mary, barely 24 when cast, brought a fresh energy that made the Dick Van Dyke Show a 5-season, Emmy-sweeping juggernaut. Creator Carl Reiner handpicked Mary after seeing her in a failed pilot, saying, "She had a spark that lit up the room." Dick, already a Broadway star, was the perfect foil. His lanky frame and rubbery face made for comedy gold. Their dance numbers, like the one in Never Bathe on Saturday, had viewers swooning. But it was their quiet moments, Rob and Laura sharing a knowing glance, that fueled the "are they in love?" rumors. One fan wrote in 1963, "I swear they're married in real life, but were they? Or was their bond a masterclass in acting that fooled us all?" Let's dig into Dick Van Dyke's early days, where his journey to stardom was anything but glamorous. Born on December 13th, 1925, in West Plains, Missouri, Richard Wayne Van Dyke grew up in Danville, Illinois, with his brother Jerry, who'd later play his sibling on The Dick Van Dyke Show. Their Dutch roots traced back to Mayflower passenger John Alden, a tidbit Dick loved to share. His mom, Hazel, typed away as a stenographer, while his dad, Loren Cookie Van Dyke, peddled goods. As a kid, Dick was a dreamer, belting hymns in choir and stealing the spotlight in school plays. He toyed with becoming a minister, but ditched that plan when the stage called louder. In 1944, at 18, he dropped out of high school to join the Army Air Forces during World War II. Too skinny to fly at first, he bulked up just enough to train as a pilot, only to end up as a radio announcer and troop entertainer, cracking jokes for soldiers across the US. He didn't get his diploma until 2004 at 78. Talk about a plot twist. After the war, Dick hustled in showbiz, pairing with Phil Erickson for a mime act called Eric and Van, the Merry Mutes. They toured nightclubs, lip-syncing and clowning to packed houses. By the late 1940s, they landed a local TV show in Atlanta, but Dick's real break came at WDSU-TV in New Orleans. The 1950s saw him guesting on national TV, and a CBS pal scored him a 7-year contract. Soon, he was rubbing elbows with Walter Cronkite on the CBS morning show. Broadway was next, with a role in The Girls Against the Boys in 1959, followed by Bye Bye Birdie in 1960. Despite the show's mixed reviews, Dick's charisma earned him a Tony, and Hollywood took notice. By 1961, Carl Reiner tapped him for The Dick Van Dyke Show, setting the stage for his fateful meeting with Mary. But what was Dick like off-screen? A charmer with a dark side, or just a guy chasing his dreams? Mary Tyler Moore's story, meanwhile, was one of grit and sparkle. Born in Brooklyn, New York in 1936, she grew up in a Catholic Irish-American family with siblings John and Elizabeth. Her dad, a clerk, moved the family around Brooklyn and Queens before landing in Los Angeles when Mary was 8, thanks to her uncle's showbiz ties. Catholic schools shaped her, but tragedy struck later. Elizabeth died young from a lethal mix of painkillers and alcohol, and John lost his battle with kidney cancer at 47. Mary's first gig was as a dancing elf in Hot Point appliance ads in the 1950s, filming 39 spots in 5 days for $6,000. A fortune then. Pregnancy ended that job when her elf costume couldn't hide her bump, but she bounced back with album covers and bit TV parts. Her role as Sam on Richard Diamond Private Detective, Just. Her legs and voice had viewers buzzing, "Who's that mystery girl?" By 1961, Carl Reiner cast her as Laura Petrie, and at 24, she became a star. But did her chemistry with Dick spark more than just TV magic? Behind the scenes, Dick and Mary's friendship was the stuff of legend. They'd huddle in dressing rooms, swapping stories and cracking jokes. Dick once said, "Mary was so easy to work with. It felt like we'd known each other forever." Mary echoed the sentiment, calling him the brother I never had. Oh, yet the gossip rags wouldn't let up, printing blurry photos of them laughing at rap parties with captions like, "Caught in the act?" Both were married, Dick to Margie Willett, Mary to Grant Tinker. But that didn't stop fans from dreaming. A 1964 article claimed, "Insiders say Dick and Mary are closer than anyone knows." The duo stayed mum, letting their work speak. When the show ended in 1966, they went their separate ways, but their bond held strong, with phone calls and reunions keeping the spark alive. So, what was the truth? A platonic partnership or a love story we'll never fully know. Dick's career post-Dick Van Dyke Show was a wild ride. In 1964, he played Bert in Mary Poppins, a box office smash despite his infamous Cockney accent, which critics roasted but fans adored. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in 1968 was another hit, but flops like some kind of a nut stung. By the 1980s, he pivoted to TV, starring in movies like The Country Girl with Faye Dunaway and playing a rare villain, a killer judge, on Matlock in 1986. That same year, he teamed with his son Barry on Airwolf. A 1989 Golden Girls guest spot as B. Arthur's love interest earned him an Emmy nod, his first in over a decade. In 1990, he played a shady DA in Dick Tracy, reigniting his career. Then came Diagnosis Murder from 1993 to 2001, where he and Barry shone as Dr. Mark Sloan and his cop son. Dick's tech side emerged too. He bought an Amiga in 1991, tinkered with visual effects, and showed his work at SIGGRAPH. His a cappella group, The Fantastics, sang at Lakers games, and in 2017, he dropped a jazz album. At 93, he played Mr. Dawes Jr. in Mary Poppins Returns, and at 97, he wowed as the gnome on The Masked Singer in 2023, the show's oldest contestant. In 2024, he produced and starred in Coldplay's All My Love video with his wife Arlene Silver, proving he's still Hollywood's ageless wonder. But his personal life? That's where the real drama unfolded. Dick's personal struggles could fill a tabloid. He married Margie Willett in 1948 on a radio show, Bride and Groom, and they had 4 kids: Christian, Barry, Stacy, and Carrie Beth. But his 1976 affair with Michelle Triola Marvin rocked their marriage, leading to a 1984 divorce. Dick lived with Michelle until her 2009 death, later admitting guilt over his role in Margie's pain. In 2012, at 86, he married 46-year-old Arlene Silver, a makeup artist he met at the SAG Awards. Their age gap sparked chatter, but their love silenced critics. Tragedy hit in 1987 when his granddaughter Jessica died of Ray's syndrome, prompting Dick to campaign against aspirin for kids. He dodged death in 2013 when his Jaguar caught fire on a California freeway. A passerby saved him. In 2024, he was evacuated twice from his Malibu home during wildfires, but it stood firm. Health-wise, alcoholism nearly derailed him until he got sober in 1972 after a 3-week hospital stay. A heavy smoker, he quit by 2013, relying on Nicorette gum for years. From 2006 to 2013, a mysterious pounding in his head, possibly from titanium dental implants, stole his sleep and energy, forcing him to cancel gigs. Yet Dick's faith kept him steady. He taught Sunday school and read theologians like Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Politically, he backed Bernie Sanders in 2016 and 2020 and Kamala Harris in 2024, showing his progressive heart. Mary Tyler Moore's legacy, meanwhile, is etched in TV history. Her 1970-1977 series, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, was a game-changer, with Mary Richards as a single career-driven woman in a Minneapolis newsroom. It won 29 Emmys and inspired women everywhere, from journalists to feminists. Mary's charm and wit made it a classic. but her personal life was a storm. At 18, she married Richard Meeker, a cranberry juice salesman, and had her son Richie in 1956. They divorced in 1962, and that year she wed Grant Tinker, a CBS exec. Their MTM Enterprises birthed her show, but their marriage ended in 1981 after a 1973 split and reconciliation. In 1980, Richie's death at 24 in a shotgun accident, caused by a hair trigger model later recalled, devastated her, especially as Ordinary People, where she played a grieving mom, hit theaters weeks before. She earned an Oscar nod for it, proving her dramatic chops. In 1983, she married Dr. Robert Levine, a 29-year-old cardiologist, and they stayed together until her 2017 death. Mary beat alcoholism at Betty Ford in 1984 and quit her 3-pack-a-day smoking habit. Diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 1969,